The following is a conversation with Miguel from the Shareslake team. Shareslake is the first fiat-backed stablecoin deployed live on Cardano as a sidechain with their RUSD stablecoin. We discuss the future of the project, its mission to bring the financial world to the blockchain, and what it's like building on Cardano, and much more. I hope you enjoy this discussion. And I was pretty interested about your project. I sort of came across it on Twitter and hadn't really heard of it, and especially as it's the sort of the first stablecoin on Cardano. Would you be able to just give sort of a quick overview of your project?
Yeah, sure. So, well, basically we have a fiat-backed stablecoin which can be minted in Cardano and in Shareslake. I mean, a fiat-backed stablecoin has not too much to explain, but basically you can put US dollar into a reserve, and then you will get some tokens representing the amount that you deposited into the reserve. And later on, you can destroy the tokens and get the USD back from the reserve. And we also have the Shareslake sidechain, or the Shareslake network, which is basically a Cardano network that is bootstrapped from Genesis. The main difference with the Cardano Mainnet is that instead of being powered by ADA, it's powered by the stablecoin itself. So what ADA does in Cardano is what the stablecoin does in our sidechain. So you can do everything that you can do with ADA and Cardano, but in the sidechain. So for example, you come from pay transaction fees, doing staking rewards. You can interact with their smart contracts, setting it as collateral or whatever. The idea is that the idea is to bring the tokenization of real world assets to the blockchain space. The big problem that we have seen with this is that most of the people that is interested in holding tokenized real world assets, so this can be, for example, building land houses or companies that have their equity tokenized in the network or whatever. The people that is interested in holding those assets usually do not want to get exposed to the crypto volatility.
Yeah.
So in this way, we have like a world crypto ecosystem that is not exposing you to any volatility at all. So that's more or less the concept. It is like, let's create something that the people who is skeptical and the people that do not believe in the crypto because of the volatility can use, just like if they are using dollars.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you're basically a sidechain of Cardano. I've been doing quite a bit of research on sort of the sidechain capabilities of Cardano. It's actually incredibly exciting for how the ecosystem can grow. How have you found building on Cardano and building as a sidechain?
Well, actually, I mean, we have more or less built everything that we needed. For example, for the sidechain, we have built a bridge, which is in its early stage yet. I mean, it works only for the stablecoin. We have pending to support any assets. So the idea is that we will be creating a new version of the bridge that will allow to move any native asset from Cardano to Shareslake and from Shareslake to Cardano. That's the idea. But currently we are in the first version, so it only allows the stablecoin. But it's not actually a big problem because people can still mint assets in the sidechain directly. So just like if they are minting assets in Cardano Mainnet, and also deploy any dApps, because you can deploy code out of the box. You can deploy your applications without changing anything in the sidechain directly. So for example, a DEX can be deployed right now to the sidechain, be working in both networks. The overall, I've seen that the overall Cardano space has been growing a lot during the last year, because when we started, there were not too much resources to start. Actually, it was like a year ago. I remember that I got like crazy looking for how to create transactions from code directly. Then I found the Cardano serialization lib, where the documentation was not too good, to be honest.
Yeah.
But during the last year, I have seen that there are a lot of new tools, also for creating contracts in JavaScript. A lot of new tools with improved documentation that at least for me, it is. I feel like currently you can deploy. I mean, sorry. Currently, you can build stuff in Cardano much easily than 1 year ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, talking to quite a lot of projects, especially developers who have moved from Ethereum to Cardano. I think the consensus that I'm getting is still that Cardano is actually a very hard blockchain to actually start programming on, and the ease is not it's not as easy to move over. How have you sort of found programming on Cardano? I don't know if you've had any experience programming on other blockchains.
Yeah, well, I mean, I personally have not coded too many smart contracts for Cardano, to be honest. I strongly think that learning Haskell for creating a contract is not the best option to develop applications. But I also know from that there is now there are alternatives like Plutus and other frameworks that allow you to code the smart contracts in, for example, TypeScript.
Yeah.
So I really think that that is a really good move in the ecosystem because it will bring a lot of new developers that just don't know Haskell. The learning curve for Haskell is not, it's not really straight to learn.
It's pretty steep. Yeah, I know from my experience. So sort of the decentralized aspect of your chain. I mean, currently it's a pretty centralized system. It's running on all your nodes, and I think you've started opening it up to the community. Why did you choose to run your own set of nodes and not use sort of nodes from the Cardano ecosystem and use their ADA sort of pledge to decentralize the network from the get-go?
Yeah, so well, currently the network, since the last week, people from the community are minting blocks. So of course it started being centralized like Cardano Mainnet with some BFT nodes that were producing all the blocks. Now 10% of the blocks are being produced by our community. So the community pools are creating 10% of the network blocks, and we will be increasing that amount during the next epoch of the network. Also, while other pools are joining the network. And about the sorry, I forgot the question actually was. Yeah, sorry, about why we decided to deploy our own network. So our own nodes. It is basically because Cardano has already built in everything that we actually needed. So why will we deploy? Why will we build a new blockchain itself to be connected to the Cardano nodes, which is something that maybe we will not have the resources to do it, and probably we will not do a job like the Cardano Mainnet itself. While the Cardano Mainnet code is public and we can just deploy it, and it has everything that we need right now.
Okay.
So that's basically the why we use the same Cardano software, but in parallel. Our stablecoin can be minted in the Cardano Mainnet and in the sidechain, and we don't intend the sidechain to replace Mainnet, of course, and we don't want to force people to go from Mainnet to the sidechain. So we are going to continue working on both at the same time. But the idea of the sidechain is just having a fully stable ecosystem, a fully stable extension of Cardano. So the people who is skeptical to the crypto because of the volatility can use the technology just like if they were using dollars. But we are not trying to replace Cardano Mainnet, of course, because we will not be able to do so, being honest. And we deployed the same Cardano network because it gives us a lot of advantages in terms of already done work,
Yeah, sure. So I mean, currently there's 41 billion USD locked in DeFi, and I think stablecoins are a massive part of actually driving that adoption and bringing in sort of the financial sector into it. What do you see as the future of DeFi, especially when it relates to securities, stocks, shares, and sort of how is your project going to allow for this?
Yeah. Well. Actually, my future bet is that at some point all the markets will move to blockchain technology. I don't know if in 2 years or 10 years, but at some point they will move. And it's just because it is easier for everyone. It is easier for people to hold it. It removes the intermediaries, so it is cheaper for everyone. It is easier to mint the. So, for example, if you are going to tokenize a company, it is just trivial to tokenize the company shares. For example, in Switzerland, it is already allowed to incorporate a company issuing directly the company shares as network tokens. And I strongly thought that that will be extended to other countries really soon. And the future in securities, I guess that what is required right now is to just develop the infrastructure required to do so, which is on-chain identification for people, maybe a way of locking assets, because securities are not just like any tokens that you mint. Some governments are going to require to have a locking mechanism to avoid fraud and money laundering and all that stuff. So I guess it, yeah, in some years, once we already have all that infrastructure, everyone will, everyone, not everyone maybe, but what is the securities market basically will be moved on chain for sure. At least that's my bet. I cannot, of course, know what is going to happen, but I strongly thought that all the securities market will move on chain really soon.
Okay. So you've currently got about 70,000 RUSD minted. Where do you sort of see the project heading in terms of partnerships with other projects? There's not that much talk about RUSD compared to other stable coins, and I think that's sort of wrong. And hopefully I can sort of shed some light and open it up to the community a bit more. Where's sort of the roadmap for this coin?
Yeah, well, I guess, I understand people in the way that they think that is basically that we are some guys that appeared from nowhere. Well, actually, we have been working on this for a year now. We have been in several Cardano events. We were in the main stage at Lausanne. We were in Barcelona in some meetups from Cardano. We also know a lot of people from the community in person. But yeah, I understand that it is a new project and people still need to gain trust on that. But I guess the people who has used it right now can, if you talk to anyone that has been using our project or any of our services or infrastructure, they can tell you that we're trying to do everything right. We're going to continue trying to do so. And well, in the long term, our idea is to continue building this infrastructure. The long term goal of the project is to bring on-chain tokenized real-world assets. So as I said, the idea is to build an ecosystem, a crypto ecosystem that works directly with USD. So it is really, it is like an intermediate step for the people to get familiar with how crypto works without needing to for example, use ADA, which is volatile, so they are not exposed to the volatility of ADA. It is like an intermediate step where you can get familiar with the crypto technology using USD, and then you can make the next step, which is getting fully into the crypto space and using a full decentralized asset like ADA, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever you want to use,
Sure, yeah, and I think the idea of trust is hugely important now in the crypto space more than ever. I think we've seen that with FTX and a bunch of the other companies.
Sadly.
So I see you've got sort of an initial proof of reserves. Where do you see that going? And what are your plans for audits on your USD reserves and?
Yeah. So, well, if you're checking our website, we have a dashboard currently stating what is or what not, but I understand that that dashboard is updated by us. So you have to still trust us. And the idea, if you check at the end of that dashboard, and the short-term idea is to auditing the reserves from a third-party firm, so you don't have to trust Shareslake about what is on the reserves, but you can check that there is a certificate that there is a third-party firm that has nothing to do with Shareslake, which is like certifying that the reserves are in the state that is shown on that dashboard itself. That is the short-term yeah, the next step that we're going to perform with the research for creating more trust. I don't know in the future. So there is a really there is a really big challenge with fiat-backed stablecoin, which is you cannot decentralize it because it will require to decentralize a traditional financial system, which is currently that is not possible because, for example, if I told you, okay, you can check this Cardano address and you can check that the funds that we are saying that exist are there, and that can be done by anyone, but in a bank account, that's not so trivial right now. And I think that's the big challenge for fiat-backed stablecoins. But yeah, so by the moment we will go for the auditing with the auditing path. So we will in the short term get an audit of the research by a third-party firm to provide higher trust to the people in the future. So we have to try to work around this issue of not being the traditional financial system is not so open as the crypto one.
Yeah. And do you have a sort of a timeline for this audit, and how regular like intervals will this audit be conducted? Quarterly, monthly, bi-yearly?
Yeah. So well, ideally we want to do it every 2 weeks. What will be like twice a month, I think. So if a month has 4 weeks, we will be doing it twice a month. That will be ideal, but I'm not sure if that is doable for the audit firms. So I guess at least at the minimum we want to set a one time per month, basically once a month. I think that will be the minimum required because less than once a month is maybe not enough. But yeah, I mean, the ideal frequency that we have in mind is to audit it twice a month, which is basically once every 2 weeks. Because maybe once a week is not enough time for the auditing firm to perform an audit every week, and less than once a month is not enough for people.
Sure, yeah, and there's obviously costs involved with every audit. So there's been sort of a lot of talk about these algorithmic backed stable coins, especially with JED in the Cardano system. What's your opinion on algorithmic stable coins, and where do you see their place in the system, if any, compared to fiat backed?
Yeah, well, I think that's a dangerous question. Okay, I want to give my personal opinion, and I have like opposites think myself, because I strongly think that fiat-backed stablecoin are, if obviously I'm talking about if well done and everything is correct and it is not the next FTX, but from my point, a fiat-backed stablecoin is safer for people, just because if you want to have dollars and something goes wrong with anything, because in the crypto space there are a lot of things that can go wrong depending on how the stuff is built. If anything goes wrong, you can share. You can basically distribute the research between the people that have the coins before that error. Let's say, with an algorithmic stablecoin, if something goes wrong, people lose everything.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it is like fiat-backed stablecoin needs to be centralized, while algorithmic stablecoins can be fully distributed. So, I don't have a strong thought about using one or the other. I just try to, try to have my own assets on what I think is more safe for me. So if I have to, this is a personal opinion, but if I have to elect between using an algorithmic stablecoin or a fiat-backed stablecoin, I will say that if I'm going to get to maintain assets for a long time, I will probably use the fiat-backed one. But if I'm going to perform some operations, in a couple of days or a week or whatever, maybe using the algorithmic stablecoin is the way to go, because you can obtain it without facing KYC processes and all that. So also the fiat-backed stablecoin have another advantage for the ecosystem, which is that they serve as an on-ramp and off-ramp. So, for bringing more people into the crypto space and to allow the people which is in the space to go out easily without going to exchange. But yeah, so that's more or less my opinion.
Sure. So I mean, let's talk about sort of regulation. What are some of the challenges that you faced in setting up companies in the US and setting banking systems in Europe, and how you're actually sending the redeemed USD to customers? What are sort of the challenges, and where is that going?
So it is being complicated, to be honest. We are already registered with the FinCEN, so we are already registered as a money service business. We can, since 3 weeks or so, we can properly operate in the US. Until we got that, we were not open for US users. Now we are. And that's just because we wanted to do everything. We wanted to avoid legal problems. So we started not being open for US people, just because we were not properly registered. Now that we are supporting them. We are also open for people in Europe, because the MiCA regulation is going to start, let's say, applying in 2024. Well, that's the idea. Right now we can operate, but we are trying to partner with some electronic money institutions to operate on top of their licenses. So we don't have to, by the moment, get our ones, but probably in a medium term future, we will not need to get our own licenses for Europe too.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I mean, opening into the US is not recommended from my personal opinion, because all the regulation framework in Europe is more clear than in the US right now. And it's easier to open up a company knowing what you have to do, that not having a clear idea of how do you have to comply with the government, So yeah, we basically open it in the US because, being a fiat-backed stablecoin, the ideal solution is to maintain the funds in FDIC accounts, which are accounts protected by the Federal Reserve until certain threshold. But yes, I mean, it's probably, if you are going, I would say that if you are a new person that are going to create a new company in the crypto space, I will probably go, unless you have something really, really important to decide to open in the US, I will go to open up in Europe. I mean, just to say location, probably in Switzerland right now will be the best option.
Yeah, for sure. So I also saw while I was reading your white paper, you have a treasury system where you're taking a percentage of the transactions, and you're going to put correct me if I'm wrong, 0.15% of the transactions going to sort of companies building on the Shareslake blockchain. What sort of features are you taking from Catalyst, and then sort of what improvements are you building on top, and how do you envision that system working?
Yeah, well, just to mention that that system is not currently working like that. It is for the you know, for the future of the project.
Mhm.
Is while we are like more mature, but so like as we were talking before, the long-term idea of the project is to bring real world assets to the you know, to get tokenized real world assets. We want to focus more on companies itself, or companies themselves, to have tokenized equity. And the idea was to take, so let me rephrase this. If I'm a company, okay, if I want to tokenize my company shares right now in a blockchain, I can select, you know, I can elect between several, you know, for example, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana. I can do it wherever I want, but I will not get, apart from the technology itself, I will not be getting anything, any incentive extra to tokenize on that blockchain. So the idea of that scheme that you mentioned is, if I'm a company and I know that I can, for example, tokenize my shares in Ethereum or Cardano Mainnet, or tokenize my shares in the Shareslake network, if the Shareslake network is going to reward the company in some way, I will probably decide to go there. And that's the idea of that mechanism.
So it's sort of an incentive structure.
Exactly.
Okay.